Howdy guys, I'm Aiden and welcome back to Aiden's Archive. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to edit TV episode reviews or movie reviews inside of Davinci Resolve. I feel fairly confident on the subject considering I just worked on 3 of these for my good friend Jay the Zoomster as part of Winchester Week. Here's 1 video, here's 2 videos, and here's 3. If you want to watch my episode reviews, I will leave them down in the description. I'll also leave a link to my good friend Carrie and I who helped me on this video in specific. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. I figured though, rather than doing editing breakdowns on all 3 of these videos, I instead show you the tips, tricks, and techniques used to make them. That way you can learn how to make episode reviews or movie reviews on your channel. Without any further ado though, let's get started. There's 2 UI things I want to talk about first and foremost. The first thing is, how do you get all these timelines to show up here? Click on this button right here and make sure display stacked timelines is checked. Here's how it looks without it. Here's how it looks with it on. When you have a new timeline, you can just drag it onto here, and then to select previous ones, hit this drop down arrow and you can click on them. You can also get rid of them. Super useful. The other thing we're going to enable is go to Davinci Resolve Preferences, go to User UI Settings, and make sure Show Focus Indicators in the user interface is clicked. In fact, you might as well just click on all these while you're here. But this one specifically, what does it do? You see this little red bar right here? That lets us know that we're selected onto our viewer. If I click the inspector, the red bar follows. If I click the timeline, it's here. Or if I click in the media pool, it's there as well. It'll just let you know exactly where you're at inside of DaVinci Resolve, and I find that really helpful. So I'm going to start with 2 new timelines. The first is going to be whatever media you're editing. So if it's an episode, name it the title of your episode. If it's a movie, name it the title of your movie. And then a second timeline, which is our actual review. So this has our voiceover, B-roll, everything. You can title it episode review, movie review, whatever. But just make sure you have 2 empty timelines. We're going to start first with our episode. And I'm going to be using Supernatural Season 4, Episode 1, entitled Lazarus Rising. I'm going to drag it into our timeline here. And the first thing I recommend you doing is going up here to timeline and click detect scene cuts. This is going to take a little bit, so I will be right back once it's finished. All right, and now it's done. If we zoom in on our timeline here, you'll see it made a bunch of cuts, seemingly at random, but it's actually not. If we play our clips
We
here,
don't know what they're planning. We got a pile of questions and no shovel.
You'll notice every time the shot changes, Davinci has made a cut. I think it's using AI of some kind, and it took a little while on my system, but keep in mind, I'm recording a video. For you, it should be much faster.
Need help.
I know a psychic, a few hours from here. Something this big, maybe she's heard the other side.
The reason this is helpful has to do with how these videos are made. If we take a look at our final timeline, you'll notice that it's comprised of a bunch of smaller clips. Why is that exactly? You would think that why not just use an entire scene for this section? And while that would be fairly easy, if you were to upload that video to YouTube, you would get hit with a copyright claim fairly quickly. The more material you give YouTube to work with, the easier it'll be for it to spot. That's why, typically, the rule for editing any movie or TV review is to keep your clips within 6 seconds or less. And I would typically go less. 6 seconds is more of just a hard limit. Now, granted, I wouldn't just take one scene like this and then cut it up into 6-second chunks. Rather, I would use different scenes and sort of match them based on what the presenter is talking about. But because we need to work in this method where we need 6-second chunks, it makes our shot selection pretty important. The way that I see most people doing this is they drag their episode in along with their review, and they go in the timeline and they're like, oh, I want to use this shot of Dean. We'll make a cut here, make a cut here. But then you have to go in and trim. And let's say we want right here, right when Dean's looking at his abs. And we want the clip to end right before the close-up. So there you go. You see how long that took? The trimming and having to find the spot and making the cut and all that. We don't have to do that with this method. The cut is already made for us. We don't have to trim. The nice thing about this too is that this method doesn't make mistakes. What typically happens with this trimming method is that I see people accidentally making it a frame too long or too short. And that has disastrous qualities to your video's pacing. Don't believe me? Okay. So move this like here, actually. Keep in mind, all we've done is we've accidentally let another frame in. But watch how weird this feels. You see that? Let me play it again. That half frame of the dog coming in has disrupted the pacing entirely. An issue that we wouldn't have if we simply used the cut up shots. That's why I recommend using this in the first place. It's not only going to save time, remove the trimming, but make the pacing of your video so much better. All right, I get it. What other tips do you got? Well, the next one is also an AI tool called AI Audio Transcription, and we're going to start by using it on our episode. If I right-click, go to AI Tools, Audio Transcription, and Transcribe, what this is going to do is give us a written transcription of everything that happens in the episode. Sound effects, dialogue, all of it. I'll show you what it looks like once it's done. All right, now we have our AI transcription. What is this useful for exactly? Well, let's say in our voiceover, Jay mentions a specific line of dialogue. I know Castiel at one point says, "I'm the one who gripped you tight and raised you from perdition." Now we could scroll through this timeline and try to find that exact moment, but because we have the AI transcription, all I got to do is type in the exact word he said. So if I use gripped, search, and then highlight that, now we have that exact moment, and I can go back to our episode review timeline and hit this button, which appends it to the end of our timeline. And there we go. Now we have the exact clip.
I'm the one who gripped you tight and raised you from perdition.
Okay, lit. You can also, though, use this AI transcription not just on your episode, but also on your voiceover. And this is where that second timeline is going to be. So take your timeline with your final review, and at this point, you can throw in your voiceover. I'm going to use the Lazarus Rising one here, drop it in, and then rather than transcribing the media itself, we're going to go to timeline, make sure you click on the timeline with a check mark, go to AI Tools, Audio Transcription, and we're going to transcribe the timeline instead. So now we have our entire voiceover transcribed in the same way that we searched in the episode, we can now search in the voiceover. So I know that perdition line from earlier, right? Jay says somewhere in the voiceover, insert this line here, right? So if I type in insert, maybe line, put the line from the episode in the script here. There we go. So I know it's at this exact moment that he wants the perdition line. If I hit M, it adds a marker. Now keep in mind, if you don't have a clip selected and you hit M, it'll put a marker on the timeline. We want the marker to be added to the clip itself, and that'll happen so long as it's selected. But now it's selected on here, which is pretty cool. So then if we go back to here, AI Tools, Audio Transcription, and the nice thing about all of this, right, is that once you've done the transcription once, you don't ever have to do it again. It will always stay there in the timeline unless you want to clear it. But now we have our line. We can go back here, hit insert, and now it's thrown in at that exact moment Jay wanted us to. So pretty handy, right? The other thing it's helpful for is finding out where certain sections of the script start and stop. If we go back to our timeline and click on the one with the check mark, AI Tools Transcription here, we want to pull this up. And then what you want to pull up, if they've given you one, is a script. And this is why scripts are super handy, because using this, we can find the exact line that starts each chapter. So let's say, I want to know where chapter 1 is in this voiceover. We could click and listen around.
He's the shift in the show's myth.
No.
A case. There's a really awesome scene,
No.
heart and grit, that made the show such a cult.
No. We can't find it on our own, right? That's going to take a lot of time. Let's just go to the script. Season 4 opens by answering the question everyone had. All right. Type in season 4 opens. Search. And look, our playhead is right there. Now I just hit marker, and that's where chapter 1 is. Okay, pretty quick. Let's go and find chapter 2. It may seem odd. Okay. Odd. Search. There's the line. And there's the marker. All right, cool. And then finally, chapter 3. This episode is very clearly prioritizing Dean. We'll type in very clearly. Very clearly. Okay. And then hit the marker there. And there we go. Now we have our 3 chapters easily laid out for us without having to listen to the entire thing. So just to recap, you can use AI transcription on the source itself, like in our media pool, or you can transcribe the timeline itself. Why would you want to use one over the other? If you transcribe a clip that isn't on your timeline, you can still search for it, but you're not going to be able to see the playhead, nor are you going to see the in and out markers on the sentences that you select. The reason why we didn't just transcribe the voiceover here is that I wanted to be able to see exactly where we were when we clicked on specific sentences. So for the episode, it didn't matter. We could just transcribe and be done because we already threw it onto a timeline. But for this specifically, I recommend transcribing the timeline so we can find those individual points. All right, on to the next tip. Let's say you like this clip right here and you want to add it to your review. All right. We'll hit copy, go to the end, hit I, paste, and then you're skimming along maybe a couple minutes later and you're like, oh, I like this clip with the door. You go in the timeline, I hit paste, and then, a little while later, you're like, I like this clip. You hit copy, go to your timeline, hit I, paste, and bam, we've done something wrong. Did you catch it? We have just used the same clip twice. And I know, right? Like, who's going to make that mistake on back-to-back clips? Sure, fair enough. But now imagine doing that process for 4 hours straight over a 20-minute voiceover. It's fairly common, especially the longer you get into it. And typically, when someone is watching a video, they like to see a variety of clips. They don't want to see the same shot over and over and over again. But how exactly do we fix it? If only there was like a visual way that we could see the duplicate frames. Oh, wait, there is. If you go to view and click show duplicate frames, hey, would you look at that? You'll notice there's a pink ribbon on our 2 identical clips. If I get rid of this one, the ribbon mysteriously disappears. And it works on multiple clips too. So if I click this, hold Alt, and that allows us to make a copy. And then I click on this, hold Alt, make a copy. So now all of these are pink, right? But if I get rid of just this one, okay, the pink ribbon disappears there, but it doesn't disappear on this until we get rid of the copy. Here's how I would use this in a practical example. Once you've made your final timeline and you're ready to render, let's do one final check to make sure that we're not using any duplicate clips. This doesn't just work automatically, I find. In order to get it working into gear, I typically would like to copy some clips just to make sure that everything's loaded appropriately. So let's just take this section here, hit copy, and go ahead and hit I, paste. And if we zoom in, you'll notice all these colored bars up here. Yep, that's some duplicate clips, all right. So then if we delete this, we know it's officially working. So then what I would do is zoom in on our timeline. And if you see a colored bar anywhere on the timeline, you know you've used a duplicate clip, like right here. This one's actually a duplicate because I needed it for an effect. I needed a cutout of Dean, a regular scene, and then the text to go in between it, basically. So that makes sense. But hey, now you can tell it's working. So this is just one final overview to make sure you're not using repeat shots. And if you're tired of looking at it, you could always go to View and unclick Show Duplicate Frames. And now, if we go back to that beginning shot, it's no longer there. Super useful, I find. The next thing I'll mention, you can actually see on the timeline. Why are all these clips a bunch of different colors? Well, that's actually for organization, and it makes clip matching, I find, a lot easier. The first video I ever edited for Jay the Zoomster was the top 10 episodes of the Dark Age of Supernatural. I was working with a lot of episodes there, and so I used clip colors to differentiate each episode. So if I go here and we select all of this, go to File, and we can click any of these colors. Let's just make it brown, for instance. And then let's say we were working with this episode and we wanted to differentiate that. We can make it blue. And if I take this clip and this clip, copy and paste that into our video, without ever having to read any of this, I can tell, okay, this one's from Lazarus Rising and this one's from Are You There, God, right? All by the clip color. However, that's not very helpful for this specific instance because, well, we're only reviewing one episode. It really wouldn't make sense whether our original episode was brown, blue, or green because, well, that's the only one we're using. So in order to get rid of that, we can click on this little X and that brings it back to the default color. Instead, I like to use clip color to signify different sections of the video, and that's usually based on script. So if we go here, you remember chapter 1 was Dean, chapter 2 was Castiel, and chapter 3 was Sam. Well, given that knowledge, we can color code our clips to let us know which chapter they belong in. See what I'm getting at here? Okay, so if we exit out of this shot, for instance, has Sam in it, and we'll make Sam pink, okay? Next shot has Dean in it. We'll make Dean green. And then we need a Castiel shot. Okay, there's Castiel. We'll make Castiel orange. And now, when done over an entire timeline, you'll know that all the orange clips are Cass, all of the pink ones are Sam, and the green ones are Dean. But here's the tricky part, right? Typically, you're not going to have all of your clips back to back in such a nice order. Okay, so I feel like this is more representative of how an actual timeline is going to look. Now let's say you wanted to get all your Sam clips together in one group without having to click over here or click over there. Let's see, take one Sam clip, move it here, and move this one over here, and this one. And, oh, we got to delete the gap, right? So click, delete, then, oh, darn, I can't delete that one right away. Delete gap. Okay, and then you just do that for the next 80 clips. Pretty simple, right? Yeah, it turns out there is a much faster way to go about it. You can actually select clips in your timeline based on their color. You go to Timeline, select Clips by clip color. If you can use your mouse. Select pink for all of our pink clips. Hit Alt up. Drag all of our clips over to the end of the timeline, Alt down, and then if you wanted to delete the gaps, select all of your pink clips, go to Edit, and then click Delete Gaps, and bam, they're all done for you. Now, I had to explain that to you, so let's see how fast this can go without me having to explain it. Timeline, select clips by clip color, and then orange, Alt up, here, Alt down, go here, edit, and delete gaps. And then with our remaining section, we can select all of those, delete those gaps. And now we have 4 nice and easy chunks where you can pick from random clips, Sam clips, Dean clips, and Castiel clips. And you could just like copy and paste specific groups based on the chapter, right? And in fact, all of the clicking I just did is actually kind of slow, low key, because it turns out there's all these keyboard shortcuts that you can use to make the process even faster. So if we go to keyboard customization, delete gaps, rather than having to go to edit and then hit the button, if I type delete gaps, you can actually use the shortcut Alt-D or get rid of it and add your own shortcut, which is kind of cool. Select by clip color. Go here by clip color. And now you can select any clip you want with a shortcut. What about making clips any color you want? Well, if I type clip color, edit timeline clip color, there we go. Now I can make any clip a specific color just by using a keyboard shortcut. So you see I have blue set to 7, brown set to 0, green set to 8. So you could really automate a lot of this with keyboard shortcuts and cut your time in half fairly easily. Now that everything's sufficiently organized, I want to show you what it's actually like matching a clip to a certain part of the VO. If all of our green clips here are Dean, let's go to our first chapter all about Dean and see if we can't match a couple of clips here. Let's go to our first sentence.
Season 4 opens by answering the question that everybody had. How is Dean going to come back?
Okay, right here. How is Dean going to come back? Fairly simple. We find a clip with Dean. So we go over here to our Dean clip selection, and you can see based on our in and out marker that we need something about 2 seconds long. What about this Dean shot? Seems reasonable enough. Unlink the clip so we have the audio available. Drag it over here directly to our in and out point, and frick. The clip isn't long enough, man. What do we do? One option is to simply throw another clip on the end of this. However, because we're cutting it mid-sentence, it's going to feel weird unless it's a clip that looks almost identical to it. No, instead, what I want to do is make this a little bit slower so that it fits our in and out point. And the way we do that is by hitting Control R, which brings up our speed change. We can hit this arrow, change speed, and go to 75, and you'll see now our clip magically fits. But what if we needed to be more specific? You can actually just kind of hover your mouse right here until you see these 2 arrows, and you can adjust the speed kind of individually until you get exactly what you need. In this case, 77 seems to be appropriate. Now when we hit play,
How is Dean going to come back?
our clip fits pretty darn well. If you don't want to use this method though, let's say you just don't remember the Control R shortcut, for instance, that's fine. What you can do is click on your clip, go to video, and then go to speed change, and then you can just type in the speed value you want. So we already know that it's like 75 or so. The issue with this one is that it doesn't auto update. You have to then still drag your clip out in order to fill up the frame that you need. So yeah,
How is Dean
Same
going to
result.
come back?
ultimately. But the Control R method I think is nicer just visually. If your gap isn't really like a half a second long, and let's say it's only like a frame long, right? Like let's say we need to fill up this much space. Rather than dealing with the speed change at all, what you can do is go back 1 frame, make a cut, select that frame, and then click this little snowflake button, and that turns it into a freeze frame, or essentially an image. Now, if we drag that forward, we can fit those 1 frame gaps pretty well. And when you hit play, you're not even going to notice.
Going to come back? Or more
See? However, it would be pretty noticeable if we took this freeze frame and drug it out by like a couple of seconds here, a couple frames.
come back? Or more specifically,
See, now it looks like the video is buffering, sort of. So I would only use the freeze frame for just a couple of small 1 to 2 frame gaps. And for everything else, simply use the speed change either in the inspector or again by hitting Control R to manually change your speed. How slow is too slow? I find that typically you don't want to go any slower than around 80 or 75. 90's completely fine, 95's fine, 80's okay, 75's pushing it, and anything lower is a no-go. Because eventually clips do look slow enough to where it feels like it might be an issue, but small little speed changes I find aren't noticeable. In fact, I did it all across the Lazarus Rising video. If we zoom in, any clip that has this I don't know, little stopwatch thing here was a clip that I speed changed. This one was down to 95. This one I changed to 97. I did 3 back to back here. This one's 90. This one's 90. This one's 95. Another 90. And again, probably most people wouldn't be able to tell. And that's basically how I edit TV and movie reviews. However, I wanted to show you an alternate method. This is useful specifically if you know the media you're working with. In my instance, because I was editing for someone else, I hadn't actually seen the Supernatural episode beforehand. So a lot of that organizational stuff and watching through the episode is things that I would have had to have done in order to understand where everything fits together. But if you're the one who watched the movie or you've seen it before, then that probably takes a lot of time. So this method is for you guys. The first thing I would do is to go to this dual viewer mode right up here, click it. And this brings up 2 viewers. This one is our current timeline, and this is our source viewer. And you can kind of click and drag anything on it. So let's say we wanted to view Out of the Darkness into the Fire. Click, drag, and there it is. If we click here, you'll notice we're on source. If we were previewing audio, it would be on audio track down here. Or if we were doing a multicam, it would be right here. Check out my multicam tutorial, by the way, if you want more info on that. They've recently added, though, in Davinci Resolve like 20, this like insert video and audio toggle. And this is super useful. So if we click down here, we got insert video and audio, insert video only, or an insert audio only. And here's how this works. If we have it on insert video and audio, and I'm scrolling through and I want this clip, for instance, of Sam and Dean talking to some girl or whatever, I can drag, throw it onto my timeline, and now I have both the video and audio from that selected range. Makes sense. If I change it to audio only, and without changing my in and out points, do the same thing, drag it down, now I have just the audio. However, probably most useful, especially for matching episode clips to voiceover, is the insert video only option, which, as you can imagine, if I click and drag, inserts just the video, which I then could take over my voiceover and cut it down to scale. This way, you can just go and be like, oh yeah, I know what scene I'm looking for. It's somewhere right around here. Yeah, these are the 2 guys I want, I and O, and then drag it down. And remember those insert and append controls we had earlier with the audio transcription? Those still apply here. All you have to do is click on your clip, drag it over to our original viewer, and then you'll see all of these options are still here. So if we append to end, there's our clip with just the video only. Let's say we want the audio of a clip from here to here. And let's say we need to insert it in between these 2 clips. Click and drag, insert, and there it is. Now it's shown up exactly in between these 2 clips. Here's the cool thing, in my opinion. Yes, you can throw sources into the source viewer, but you can also throw complete timelines into there as well. So remember, we've already cut up the episode and color-coded it. Just by deleting the gaps, we now have a timeline of all the clips we want to use. So how do we throw it onto the source viewer? Right-click on the timeline, click Load Timeline into Source Viewer, and bam, it's suddenly there. If we cut back to our main timeline here, we have all of these clips that we used. I and O. Let's change to Insert Video Only. Drag it in. And those are all the little Lazarus Horizon clips we had cut up from this exact in and out point. But maybe you want to be able to look at the other timeline to see exactly where the in and out points are going. That's fair. Go ahead and hit Q on your keyboard. And from there, we have now switched over to the source viewer. And the same in and out points now show up on the timeline. So let's say we want this clip. We hit I and O, and then let's hit copy, hit Q to switch on back over, and then put it like here, for instance, and bam, there's our clip. Or we could go Q, do an in and out on this clip right here, Q to switch back over, drag, and now append at the end. Or drag and insert, all by swapping from both viewers. And this is where that little red indicator that I was talking about from the very beginning of this tutorial comes in handy. You'll see here we're on our source viewer, and here we're on our timeline. I have that set to Q. However, if for some reason you don't and you want to know where the keyboard shortcut is, it's called Source Timeline Viewer, and you can change that right here if need be. All right, one last thing. How do we get out of this mode? I'm sure you've noticed, but your source timeline has now turned blue, both here, and we get a blue playhead, and you lose access to some of the controls you normally have. So once you're done doing the clip matching, we want to set these timelines back to their original state. Here's how you do it. Go back to your main viewer right here, and what you want to do is click the exact same timeline as our source. So in this case, it's example episode. Now that the two are exactly the same, hit this single viewer mode button. And there you go. Now things are back to normal. Let's show you with another example. Let's load Final Lazarus video into the source viewer. So now it's blue, this is blue, blue timeline. If I hit Q, I can swap between them. This one is red and normal as always. But to get rid of the blue timeline, we have to match them. So go down to the drop down arrow, click Final Lazarus video, and with the two matched, select your main viewer right here, and then click single viewer mode. And there you go. That fixed it. Hopefully that is helpful for anybody who already knows the media that they're cutting up. And if not, those previous tips will help you in that case. I've recorded about 1 hour and 20 minutes of material, so hopefully you found this video entertaining. I've been Aiden, and I'm signing out. Bye-bye, everybody.